Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast, where the Commander Clash crew discusses Commander-related topics, and today we're going to be talking about our favorite cards from Dominaria United. This includes the main set and the cards that are featured only as box toppers or in the brand new Commander precons that come along with Dominaria United as well. So all the cards from the set, main set, and Commander sets all together. We're going to be talking about 12 of them, so 4 of them each. Joined with me, as always, to discuss these sweet new cards is Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive. How's it going, Seth?
I'm doing well, Tomer. How are you today?
Doing well. Always excited to talk about brand new cards.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos. We always get to talk about our favorite Commander cards from the set. I always look forward to these, and this is a pretty sweet set, so it should be a good one.
You know why I look forward to this way more, by the way? Because for the first time in like 2 years, Wizards of the Coast have actually mentioned that they're going to be porting like all the cards onto Magic Online so we can actually play with all of them, not just like the main set. So that's
what a concept.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just getting all of them at all times?
And they added a bunch of ones from before that we'd been waiting for. Yeah. So finally, they're getting there. It took them a while, but they're getting there.
Yeah, so not only can we talk about the cards we're hyped for, we can actually play with them on Magic Online too, which is great, not just in paper. Hooray!
What a concept again.
What a concept. And that lovely voice you're hearing is the Asian Avenger, also known as Krim. How's it going, Krim?
Freshly awake, like quite literally. So, doing good. Cool. Excited. Got to play a lot of Dominaria yesterday, so yeah.
I wish I had as clean a bedhead as you, Krim, if you're freshly awake. What's your secret?
Bedhead is the best hair glue ever. As you can see, I just kind of like...
just smush it to the side. Good.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Like, from when I started this phone call, there was like this weird part. Like I was like from an early 90s sitcom, and now I've kind of like moved it over.
Well, it's working quite well. Well, before we jump into the cards, 2 quick reminders. First, if you want to support the channel, you can do it 2 different ways. First, you can like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast, be it YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Whatever the equivalent of liking and subscribing, go do that. And the second way you can support the channel is you can head on over to our store, mtggoldfishmerch.com. You can purchase deck boxes, deck sleeves, t-shirts, and so much more over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. All right, with that out of the way, kick it off, Seth, with the number 1 card on your list. Cards you're hyped for to play with from Dominaria United.
So, Dominaria United has a legendary theme, and it's got a ton of really cool legends. So many, especially if you get into the box toppers and all the other stuff. But there's a couple of legends that really stick out that I'm super hyped to build around. And number 1 is Ivy Gleeful Spellthief. It's a new 2-mana Simic legend. You get a 2/1 flyer, it's a fairy rogue, none of that really matters. The cool part of this card is when a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, you can copy that spell, and the copy targets Ivy. So this is just such a fun card to build around. It does a few different things. You can play it as like a weird Simic Auras style deck. I'm envisioning this mostly being my commander. I think this is the kind of effect you really want to build around. I'm sure there's some decks you could jam it in the 99, but you build around this, it's in the command zone. You can play it like a weird Auras Boggle style deck, where you just like play some hexproof creatures maybe, throw Auras on those, you get extra copy on your Ivy, maybe they have ETBs that draw cards, and then you're drawing 2 cards. But the coolest thing to do with this card, and what I can't wait to do with this card, is play it as a mutate commander. It's like so perfect for mutate, because mutate actually targets, and then if you mutate onto something else, you're also going to mutate onto Ivy, and you're going to have these ridiculous mutate files going. So I just think this card's really neat. It's unique. It seems really fun to build around. Mutates hasn't really had good commanders. It's a really cool mechanic, but if you look at the actual commanders for Mutate decks, they're all pretty underwhelming, I think, to actually build around. So I'm just hyped about this card because I think it's a really fun one to build around.
It looks interesting.
Yeah.
For sure. It's also super cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, two mana. I mean, you can't
cost.
complain about two mana planeswalkers, 2 mana commanders is a good place to be because this is going to be a target for removal. I assume if you play this, people are going to be like, oh, we should probably kill this because they're going to do something crazy. But since it's 2 mana, even if it dies, like getting it back into play once or even twice after it dies shouldn't really be a huge issue because, like you said, it's only 2 mana starting off.
Yeah, and it's a very unique effect. Like, one of the close comparisons that I have to it is like something like Orvar or Zada, but these are very different effects. Like the fact that you can just copy mutate piles with Ivy or copy mutate creatures and make like double the mutate piles is very different. Copying auras is also quite different as well. You're not just limited to like instants or sorceries. You can copy those as well, but Ivy is very much open-ended on how you want to build her. And yeah, the fact that she's cheap means she's going to be very consistent.
It's also kind of cute that you can steal your opponent's spells. I don't know how much this is going to come up in practice, because I was starting to think, like, are there any commander staples that your opponent's going to cast that you're going to want to redirect or get a copy of on your Ivy? A lot of the times the answer is no. Your opponent's casting like a Path to Exile on something or a Beast Within on something, and you obviously don't want that to go on your Ivy. But imagine like having this out and running into like a Feather player or some sort of Auras player that's playing like Rankers and Umbras and stuff like that. Like, you can get a lot of free value just by getting copies of the stuff your opponent's casting if you happen to be at the right table and up against the right deck. So I don't know how often that's going to come up, but when it does come up, it's going to be pretty hilarious, actually, I think.
You should play Spellskite as well in the deck just for fun. So that you get steal as many things that can happen.
Steal it all. That does actually sound kind of sweet. Well.
Yeah. I can imagine just making a light pause deck just absolutely miserable as you're copying every single aura that they're copying as well, and you just like Alva Ultra on them.
Especially if you're like able to keep up with them, because it comes down on turn 2 as well. You know what I mean? Like that's just great. That's just great.
And Fairy Rogue, I mean, maybe is fairly decently relevant. I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know by that.
Yeah, let's not say who cares about those types. I care about those types.
I know you do, Krim, but really, it's in Simic, so it's in very awkward colors for fairies or rogues. Like, if you just look at popular commanders, and its ability, does its ability do anything with those tribes? I don't know. Are you going to try to find a way to jam this in, like, fairy or rogue tribal?
Prowl cards. I don't know. The one that takes an extra turn. I don't know. Maybe.
I just respect the tribe. Unfortunately, it's in the miserable Simic, so I'm pretty fond of that.
Well, you can splash it, right? Like you don't necessarily have to put Ivy in the 100. If there's like if you're playing like Brokos, like Brokos Mutate or something, I don't know. You can jam Ivy in that as well, so you have access to more Mutate cards, and you still get that sweet value when she shows up.
I just like having her consistently there. That's why. So I think that's the thing. Because if you're gonna build a deck with Ivy, I feel like you got to go a little more all in on it. And I like having her. So unfortunately, losing out on the whole third color though does suck. But like, what are you getting out of Mutate in black? Except for like what is it? The commander, the one that came from the precon.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. There's not there's not a ton of essential black cards, I don't think. Like the best Mutate cards are really in Simic. So you lose out on like the removal bat thing, whatever that's called, Dirge Bat, I think it is.
Yeah.
There's a Drain, like sort of like gray merchant-y, drainy Mutate creature whose name I definitely don't remember. So there's a couple that are okay, but I think like the all-stars are mostly Auspicious Sterix and Gem Razors and Dreamtail Hedrons, like stuff like that that's in Simic. So you lose a little bit, but you don't. Yeah, Sawdust Demolisher. I don't think you lose a ton by going straight Simic with your Mutate deck, really.
That's fair. All right. Well, moving on. Krim, what is a card that you're very hyped for jamming in Dominaria United for Commander?
Well, since I gotta match it. If we're starting off with our favorite legendaries, I think I gotta start off with a Dimir one that's benefits if somebody baby rages. It is all about Ramses, Assassin Lord. I am so excited because I love assassins. I had a Marchesa deck already, but now I'm gonna figure out what it's like to drop white and red and add blue. So I'm going to make my umpteenth Dimir commander. And it is 2 blue-black, Death Touch Human Assassin. Other assassins you control get +1/+1. And whenever a player loses the game, if they were attacked this turn by an assassin you controlled, you win the game. This card is so funny. It's such a troll card, and I absolutely love it. It is such a sweet commander, so if like you swing in with your usually unblockable assassins, and then somebody concedes that turn, or they concede that turn, it feels so good. You'll get a free win. It's great.
Wait, are you actually planning on getting concession kills out of this? I was thinking you just like killed them with your assassins. That would be another way going
conceding.
No, I fully plan on getting the concession win.
What, you're like playing Winter Orb and stuff as well? Like,
no. Oh my god, should I just build it as a hidden stacks deck? That'd be so funny.
I'm sure a lot of people do concede to Crim deck, so maybe for Crim this plan actually would work. He just plays all his Crim cards and people are like, okay, I'm done with this. So you just got to sneak in that one assassin attack first.
Yeah. Keep in mind, it's only when they lose the game after they were attacked this turn. So the real way to play this out is you attack them with an assassin. It could be like a 1/1 changeling, whatever.
Yeah.
And then post combat, you drop the Winter Orb or Stasis. Then you get them to concede, and then you win the game.
I don't even need the stacks pieces. I don't even play stacks cards. Well, I guess I don't consider them stacks. But like you could just oppo agenting after or something like that. I mean, you could just concede pre-combat, but
I mean, it is a really cool card. Like, this is, if you can kill one person, you assassinate the entire table essentially, and you get the win.
Yeah.
So the design on it's really cool, and there's some pretty sweet assassins. Like, there are. It's like a tribe. It's not one of those, like, we saw, like, Badger support in this set or something like that, where it's like, oh, there's, like, 3 of those that they've ever printed. There's actually enough assassins that you can build, like, a pretty realistic and, well, like, fun-looking assassin deck. So I like this one a lot, too. I know this is very much, like, Crim's play style, but it's got a little against odds in there, too, with the you win the game mode on there. So I could see it being, like, a cool challenge card to try to pull off and get the, like, kill the whole table by killing one person win.
Yeah. I looked into this one, and I was considering a couple different ways. Like, the first way, like you said, you could go assassin tribal. There's a lot of assassins. There's not a lot of assassin support cards, but there's one, Mari the Killing Quill, which just came out in New Capenna.
She's so good.
Yeah, it gives assassins, mercenaries, and rogues Death Touch, and whenever a creature dies, you exile it instead, and if you deal combat damage with your rogues, or your assassins in this case, to a player, you can remove a hit counter from a card that got just exiled with this ability, draw a card, make treasure tokens. And there's another one much more ancient from Lorwyn block, Scarblade Elite. You can tap it, remove an assassin card in your graveyard from the game to destroy target creature. Yep. So there are tribal support cards. And another interesting way that you can use them is like Voltron. Like, one of the key weaknesses of a Voltron deck is that you're trying to kill one person at a time via combat damage with your commander. So if you Voltron up Ramses, he starts as a 4/4 with Death Touch, which is not super impressive, but the idea is that if you deal 21 damage, commander damage to one opponent, or you just kill them with Ramses however you want, then you do kill the entire table. So you basically triple the effectiveness of your Voltron strategy with Ramses as the commander too.
Ooh, I like that. I mean, that seems kind of easy to pull off. Just like make it unblockable in Hatred and hit the person with the lowest life total, and then you win the entire game. When normally, like, Hatred's risky. We've seen that in Commander Clash, where you Hatred and you end up at like 3 life and you killed someone, but then the next person just kills you. This, like, that makes it even more exciting, actually, that you can go multiple directions with that. That's a cool idea.
I know this is going to be a little blasphemous to even mention, but, like, you could even add, like, Infect.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could add Infect. Like, you could play... Right. Yeah. And even then, like, I know Skithrix isn't an assassin. You just need to get one person dead. So this is the one, and like have an assassin swing with it, right? But like this is the one thing where it's just the playstyle. You're gonna kind of just focus on one person and never ease off of them. So like that is the play style of the deck, and because you just need to get one person dead,
and then you win.
Yeah. And then like the best part is that you mentioned like Mari, she's great, but you forget to mention Royal Assassin. I haven't played that in so long. I can't wait to play my white bordered Royal Assassin. It's gonna be so sick. Oh.
Yeah. There's another assassin I want to mention where Ramses might actually fit well in the 99 of, and that's Etrata the Silencer. It's a vampire assassin, can't be blocked. When it deals combat damage to a player, you exile target creature that player controls and put a hit counter on that card, and they lose the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them. So Etrata is like, there's Etrata essentially Voltron strategies where you try to basically kill your opponents by exiling 3 of their creatures. Now, doing that to each opponent is obviously very difficult, but it's much more easy to do it to one opponent. And Ramses basically triples the effectiveness of that strategy, because as soon as you attack, exile the third creature with a hit counter on it, you kill them, Ramses is on the battlefield, so now you win the game as well. So there is multiple ways to take this card, even though it is just Assassin Tribal, which is kind of interesting.
You would think that, right? Like there actually aren't that, like Assassin seems kind of random, but like there's actually a good chunk of it, right? Like there's the Battle Bond one that is going to be in my deck. It's the 3-mana one, and when it deals combat damage, it has partner, but when it deals combat damage, Virtus. I pulled up my deck list.
The half
Virtus,
lower half the life total rounded up.
That expedites the process of lowering someone's health. So yeah, you really get, and like everything of yours kills a creature, right? So you should find a way through. You'll even get to play Stalking Assassin, which looks like he's just sitting with spilled egg on his head. Like that's an old one from Invasion, and like Sabo's Assassin. There's so many things that are just assassins and just tap and kill stuff. So you should be able to clear the way pretty easily.
I think there was one concern where you could counter Ramses' ability if, like, you're going to die to attack from Ramses. You could like concede
pre-combat,
pre-combat. Yeah. But like, I think that's more of like an internet concern. Like if somebody's actually doing that, they're a jerk, and like you should just ignore what they did. Like, I don't know. It shouldn't come up in a real game, and if it does, the person's being a jerk. So,
Although if they do concede pre-game, it does put an ear-to-ear smile. It's like,
mission accomplished in a way. Mission accomplished.
No.
All right, moving on to my first pick. This is a commander that I am probably going to be building a paper deck because it's just too sweet. This is Tetsuo Imperial Champion. It's a Grixis, a 3-mana Grixis commander, blue, black, and red for a 3/3 legendary creature human samurai, and it has a triggered ability when it attacks. If it's equipped, you choose one. Either it deals damage equal to the highest mana value among equipments attached to it to any target, or you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the highest mana value among equipments attached to Tetsuo without paying its mana cost. So I see this as kind of like a Grixis equipment deck. Kind of, it could be Voltron-y, it could be Control-y, but the main idea is that Tetsuo has to be equipped with something for it to function. And that's something you don't ever see in Grixis. You don't really see equipment support in Grixis. It's usually in the realm of Boros colors. And so this is really enticing to me, just, a new area to explore. But there's a lot of really cool things you can actually do with Tetsuo. So first of all, you can make the first ability, the direct damage, more lethal by adding a Death Touch equipment onto it, like Battle's Collar gives it lifelink and death touch, so any damage you deal with Tetsuo's first ability onto a creature is lethal. There's also really cool equipments that you won't see in any other deck that take advantage of this very specific situation of like an equipped creature attacking. The best one is Scythe of the Wretched. 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Whenever a creature dealt damage by the equipped creature this turn is put into a graveyard, return that card to play under your control. So you could, like, if you're just dealing damage, lethal damage with Tetsuo's targeted damage ability, it's an equipped creature, so you just steal whatever you kill with it, which is hilarious. And the last thing that I really like, as long as you have any equipment on it, doesn't matter what the mana value is, as long as it's like a 0 or higher, you can cast suspend spells. That normally wouldn't have a way to cast them from your hand. Ancestral Vision, for example, is a 0 mana value suspend spell that doesn't have a casting cost. You can only suspend it traditionally. However, if you have this alternate cast cost with Tetsuo, you can just draw 3 cards. Ancestral Recall. You can Inevitable Betrayal, which is a bribery. So you steal somebody's creature from their deck. You could, I think there's at least one other good one.
Profane Tutor.
I'm not thinking about.
Pretty good. The Tutor.
Yeah,
Profane Tutor.
Yeah. Like, so there's like a lot of like little neat things in the deck that kind of come together that can be like either really good for Voltron or maybe just like a Grixis control style using equipment. And I don't know. I find this very enticing to me.
That's something definitely new. I playing pretty much a lot of Grixis decks, like having like the potential to have a Voltron-y deck feels pretty cool.
Yeah, I like commanders that bring themes into different color combinations. If you look on like EDH Rec, equipment are a really popular archetype in Commander, but Grixis doesn't show up, period. Like, out of the top 20 color combinations, there's like none of them. I think the most popular one is probably like Mishra Artificer Prodigy, which is like a full-on meme style deck, essentially. So I really love the color combination of this card, although I do have one like little concern about how people might build this deck, because when I first saw this, my thought was, oh, this could do a lot of cool things, or I can just use this to cast like extra turn spells for free again and again until I win. So I hope that isn't what it ends up being, because that's always disappointing when there's this like really cool commander that can do really cool things, and then it just ends up being like, take all the turns commander, and then I get sick of it pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think the nice thing with Tetsuo is that I don't think he's the best option for an extra turn style deck. Like, what makes Narset Enlightened Master so good at extra turns is not only is she casting those extra turn spells for free, which is what Tetsuo could do if you have a high enough equipment attached to him. She does it all by herself, but she also digs towards your next extra turn spell. Whereas you need some other way. Not only do you need like a 5 or higher mana value equipment on him to even start casting extra turn spells off his ability, but then you need to find the further extra turn spells. Either you can recur the extra turn spells from your graveyard, or you need to just continually tutor them up. So it doesn't seem like the best option there.
That's true. I guess you will fizzle. I guess you'll fizzle at some point because you're not gonna draw that many of them. So that is a good point. But yeah, it's definitely a super fun design. So
although he's also very good with infect, so you could still make them salty. Like the targeted damage can be infect damage. Like, I'm just saying. And
there's even the infect equipment. You know,
skeleton
on there, and go to town.
Yo, infect might be coming back with returning to Phyrexia. Who knows?
Yep.
Who knows?
Fingers crossed. I don't think they will, but fingers crossed. I love that mechanic.
In fact, in Phyrexian mana, all at once, bringing back everyone's favorite mechanics.
Let everybody just, make everyone upset.
The true nostalgia set. Also, while it's not good with extra turns, extra combat, Godo, Bandit, Warlord, it's a samurai. Tetsuo Imperial Champion is a samurai. Godo not only finds an equipment, puts it onto the battlefield, but whenever it attacks, you untap it and all samurai you control. So you get so not only do you get an equipment directly onto the battlefield to equip onto Tetsuo if you need it, but then you get an extra combat step with Tetsuo as well, which means another trigger on his thing. So there are shenanigans. I'm very excited for this. I'm very excited for this commander. It's going to be so fun. But yes, moving on, because we got a lot left to go. Seth, what do you got number 2 for us?
So I have a dark horse pick that I haven't really seen people talking about, but I think this card is pretty interesting in the context of Commander, and that is Thran Portal. It's one of the lands from the set. So it's a gate. ETB's tapped unless you have 2 or fewer lands. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a basic land type. It is that type in addition to its other type, which is Gate. And then mana abilities on Thran Portal cost 1 additional life to activate. So you gotta take 1 from it. So why would I be excited about this card? And the answer is not Gates, even though I do love Gate decks, and I would play this in a Gate deck because it has a chance of coming into play untapped. It can be any color. The reason I'm excited about this card is the way they worded this. You can play this in any deck, and there's not a ton of reasons that you might want an island in your mono white deck or a forest in your mono blue deck. But we also just got the return of the domain mechanic, which cares really specifically about the number of basic land types you have. And a lot of powerful domain cards are monocolored. Like, it's the cards themselves are not usually a 5-color mechanic. They're monocolored, 1 color. There's artifacts that are powerful that have domain. This is a way that you can up your domain count even if you're not a 5-color deck. So if you want to play Sphinx of the Clear Skies or something, this new like factor, if you hit your opponent, you factor fiction off the Sphinx. If you want to play something like that, but you're a 3-color deck, this is a way that you can cheat on your domain count a little bit and get more value out of it. Or a card like Collective Restraint, which is really powerful if you're 5 colors, like a super ghostly prison where people got to pay equal to the number of land types you have. That card gets a lot better if you have something like this in your deck and you're able to get this on the battlefield and up your land count. So I think this doesn't matter for like a huge amount of decks, but I really love that they formatted this in a way that it works in Commander. It works with the color identity rules and really does help power up the domain mechanic if you're not playing full on 5-color, but still want to play some of the sweet domain cards.
It's also a Gate.
I mean, it's also, if you're playing a Gate deck, you're playing 9 Fingers or something like that. Like, it's an easy inclusion. One of the problems with Gates is Gates always come into play untapped. And even though this is often going to come into play tapped, I guess, there are times when this is going to come into play untapped early, so you can play a Ram Spell or something when your other Gates are going to be tapped. So I like that. And plus, Gate decks, they just want as many Gates as possible. So I wouldn't play this just in any deck. But if you're Gates, or if you have domain synergies and you can take advantage of that basic land type, then I think this is actually a very powerful card in those like very specific decks.
I
mean, it's been great. I actually was curious how it felt like. I mean, in Commander, I didn't think of it. I mean, I played with it in Standard and it was really good there. So I don't know.
I mostly just love how they formatted it, because I feel like this is a card they could have formatted in a way that didn't work with the color identity rules, or like limited it only to 5-color decks with the color identity rules, because it doesn't matter in Standard. Like, Commander is the only format that has color identity rules, so they could have formatted in any possible way and it would have worked in every other format. But they managed to do it in a way where it does work in any deck in Commander, which I think is kind of neat. So it's sneaky little design, I think, from Wizards.
Yeah, sneaky design that is going to be really nice to have for very specific decks to care about, getting an extra domain color in, or if you're the Gate deck. I think 9 Fingers is the one that's going to be like, there's going to be players out there who really want that deck to work, but being in Sultai is so constraining for the number of gates you have, so every extra one that you can play in Sultai now is a blessing.
I was just looking at 9 Fingers, thinking about building it for Anything Goes Commander Clash, and to get enough gates to turn on 9 Fingers, which happens to be 9, you need to have like almost every single gate that are in its colors. I think there's like 1 surplus gate or something. So any additional gate that can go in Sultai and isn't something that gets wrecked by color identity rules is a huge, huge deal for 9 Fingers in specific.
Yeah. All right, moving on. What do we got, Krim, for the next card on your list?
Yes, I know. To nobody's surprise, it is a saga. It's Urza Assembles the Titan. It has Read Ahead, which allows you to essentially have it enter the battlefield and start on whatever chapter you want. You won't get the previous chapters, though. But yeah, the first mode is Scry 4. Then you may reveal the top card of your library. If a Planeswalker card is revealed this way, put it in your hand. And then the second chapter is you may put a Planeswalker card with the mana value 6 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. And then last chapter, you may activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities twice that turn. So, this is exactly, as you all know, I love my Amanatu Super Friends deck. Amanatu can keep flickering, and that is great. Because then I think this on its own allows you to just keep partying. I mean, like with your Urza assembling the Titans, allowing my Super Friends deck to just keep dropping Planeswalkers, or maybe digging for Planeswalkers. And then, of course, you could have it just start on the 3rd chapter and then start using the abilities 2 times a turn. That's so good, right? Like, I think that's so good. Enters the battlefield, immediately start chapter 3, flicker it, do something else. You know what I mean? Like, just keep the Planeswalker party going. This is the perfect card for my Super Friends deck.
Yeah, I think if you're playing any Super Friends deck, then this is, at least in the conversation for your deck. I think Crim's right that if you can flicker and implink it gets even more exciting. But I mean, I would probably jam this in a random like Atraxa Super Friends deck, or like if you're playing a Zika Super Friends. I think it just offers enough value, even though like any individual mode is like not super strong. We have cards that do what it does, but more consistently. Like, the last mode is probably the most exciting, but like Oath of Teferi just does that forever with no shenanigans necessary. The fact that you get all these things put together and you get, you know, some digging, hopefully hitting a Planeswalker, into some ramping, into a one-shot Oath of Teferi, I think that makes it worth it in pretty much any deck that's built around Planeswalkers. But you do have to be like dedicated Super Friends. Yeah. If you're just like, oh, I got a couple of Planeswalkers in my deck, this is going to leave you very, very sad. You have to be like actual, like, Super Friends is the theme of your deck, and you're playing like whatever 30 Planeswalkers or something. And one thing I noticed just playing this in Standard a little bit is it's perfect for your play style, because that second lore counter is sneaky powerful. Yes, you're putting the Planeswalker into play for free, but what that really means is you have all your mana up. So you're getting to develop your board and play your Planeswalker, but you're still leaving up your counter spell or whatever protection, your Oath of Teferi, whatever you need to protect your team. So I think that's like a surprisingly powerful mode on this, being able to play a Planeswalker and have your mana available.
Right, because usually you're going to want to sweep the board or do something, and then that'll allow you to do that and put a Planeswalker.
Oh, yeah, you can dig for a Planeswalker the next turn, get it for free, farewell with your mana, protect your Planeswalker on the empty board, and just like go off. Like, oh, so good.
Yeah.
I love that.
It makes Chapter 1 so much better in hindsight, or with the whole thing in mind, right? Like, Chapter 1 is fantastic. You always want to start there if you need it. And Chapter 3 is fantastic if you're ready to pop off. Chapter 2 you're never going to start on, but it's always a great thing to have, right? Like, you want to start Chapter 1, start your turn, all untap mana, cheat in like a 6-drop or something like that. No Ugin, though. How do you guys feel about no cheating into play Ugin or the big ol' Karn?
I mean, I play tons of Planeswalkers across the board, so I don't mind that, like, at all. And because I have no Ugin, maybe that's where I make up for it by having all my open mana, right? So I think I'm A-okay with that.
I think it was a restriction designed to prevent bad things in other formats. I think in Commander, you didn't need to have that restriction, but I'm wondering if we're going to get like some powerful 7-mana Planeswalker in the next set. They talked about big colorless artifact stuff. Who knows? Maybe there's like a not disappointing Karn in the next set that's going to make up for the horrible one they just gave us, and it's like 7 mana or something. So I think it makes sense for other formats. So it doesn't bother me, but in Commander, I think you don't need that restriction. Like, if you play this and dumped a Ugin into play, like, that's not any different than many other things you could be doing in Commander already.
Fair enough. All right, we'll move on. And I have a pick that is very, very unsurprising. I think some people aren't that familiar with Tetsuo, but I think this is going to be the breakout. It is. It is going to be the most popular commander in the entire set. So I had to shout it out because it is worth the hype. This is Jodah, the Unifier, which is a new Urborg 5-color commander. Urborg cost, so 5 mana Urborg, for a 5/5 legendary creature, human wizard, that has 2 abilities. First ability says, legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. That includes Jodah itself. So Jodah itself is a 5/5, but his own ability makes him a 6/6 on the battlefield, just by itself. And then the second ability is basically Legendary Cascade. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lower mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So Jodah does two things. First, just makes all your legendary creatures huge. So he definitely focuses more on legendary creatures as opposed to any sort of legendary cards. Although the legendary cascade works with any type of legendary card, or every type of non-land legendary card, to clarify. So not just creatures, but there's legendary sorceries like Urza's Ruinous Blast, Karn's Temporal Fissure or Mastery or whatever. Those trigger this as well. Your Planeswalkers trigger this as well. So it's card advantage, mana advantage, and a finisher all rolled into one. This is going to be hype. I don't know. Like, it's going to be the most popular one, obviously. It has so much appeal. It's 5 color. It's everybody loves it. But I think that aside, the super popularity aside, I think it's very justified. This is super fun. I don't know. I'm super excited to try this out. Spinning my wheel on Legendary Cascade. Who doesn't love that?
Jodah's one of my favorite cards in the set, too. Although, like, I'm kind of worried it might be too strong. Not in the sense that it would need to be banned, but in the sense that you can't let people untap with this. Like, this is literally like kill on sight. So you're going to want to be like, oh, I'm going to play my Jodah and like cast all my cool things and fun stuff's going to happen. But your opponents are like justifiably either going to arch enemy you to get rid of the problem altogether, or just have to repeatedly kill this. Because if you untap with this for one turn, you're going to have just like a huge board of legends and cast so many cards from the cascade. So I almost wish it was like slightly less threatening. It's just like so obviously powerful that everyone's gonna have to kill it. So I love the card, and if you can make it work, it's gonna be spectacular and it seems super fun. But from the other side of the table, you gotta kill it or kill the Jodah player.
Yeah, like you're just not letting them untap with this. That card is just so good, right? Like,
I mean, threatening high power commanders that you have to kill before they untap is kind of like a dime a dozen. And like remember when we were talking in AFR Mirim, it was like the same. Jodah's just another Mirim, right? Like, if you untap with the Mirim, you win the game. If you untap with the Jodah, you win the game. So I guess maybe the only annoying thing is Legendary Cascade might take a while for you to flip the cards or something. Probably not, actually. I don't know. It's just a high power commander. Way. It's a high power commander. Probably don't run at a low power table, because even if you like, oh, it's super thematic or whatever, you're just going to crush everybody. But like, it's a high power commander. Run at high power decks or high power tables. It'll be absolutely fine. And just don't be salty about people killing your commander. Well, yeah. If you don't, you win. So
the other people are doing the right thing if they kill it. I do like that. Well, I like two things about it. One is, if you build a Jodah deck and it's too high-powered, it feels like it should be easy to switch to maybe Sisay or something and run, like, literally the same deck, but, like, not be quite as busted. The other thing I like is, even though Sisay Weatherlight Captain also is, like, a 5-color legendary commander, you can pay Wooburg to tutor a legendary permanent with converted mana value, lessen its power onto the battlefield, and it gets big based on the number of legends you control. So it's also a 5-color legend commander, but it's often used for different things. Like, Jodah specifically cares, for the most part, about legendary creatures. When Sisay, people play it as, like, a shrine commander or non-creature legends. So even though, when I first saw Jodah, I was like, why would I ever play Sisay? But now the more I think about it, I think there still is a role for Sisay Weatherlight Captain, even though Jodah is, like, kind of in a similar space as a 5-color Legends Matter commander.
Yeah, Sisay can tutor up Cauldron pieces, so she's strictly better. But Jodah has that sweet legendary cascade, and I love cascading. So I also appreciate the Jodah is a coat of arms effect, right?
Yeah,
So the Jodah player's not going to dirtle that much. Eventually, you're just going to have 20/20s, and you can just end the game. So like, there is a light at the end of the tunnel if Jodah gets to pop off. And that light comes very quickly because it's actually a high-speed train coming at you. So I appreciate that. I always like, if there's like dirtle value commanders these days, I hope that they always come with a giant booty that can end games very quickly. Just like Mirim. Like, you can't really dirtle with Mirim. You're just going to die after like 1 or 2 turns of Mirim doing its thing. And I appreciate that. Because if you're popping off, I just want you to end my life so we can go to game 2.
Krim would find a way. Krim would find a way to cascade through his deck, but not kill anyone. I don't know how. He'll put him in Snaring Bridge or something, and then go off.
He has like quadruple lethal, and he says pass.
Cascade again.
I've been known to infamously pass the turn. So regardless,
what if they have settled the wreckage though?
Yeah. What if or what if I'm playing my MMO mouse and I'm button mashing? You know what I mean? So like, there's a strong chance I do just pass.
But yeah, it's gonna be sweet. I'm super excited to get my hands on it, at least, and see it in Commander Clash. Obviously, it needs to get hated out or it wins, but if it doesn't get hated out, then party on. All right, moving on. Seth, what do you got for us for number 3 on your list?
We got another one of my favorite commanders from this set. There's really two. I mentioned Ivy. That's on my top 2 list. The other commander I cannot wait to build around is Ratadrabik of Urborg, a new Urza zombie wizard. It's a 3/3. It has vigilance in Ward 2. It gives your other zombies vigilance, which, whatever. I'm not thinking this is a zombie tribal commander. The cool part is the last part of this card. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. So essentially, your legends die, and you're going to get another copy of those legends, but they're non-legendary. And notice, when I saw this, I assumed that it was going to be kind of like a Scarab God or God Pharaoh's Gift effect, where you do this thing, but you exile the creature. Like, you got to exile it. It doesn't say that. You don't have to exile it. So it's going back in the graveyard, which means you can reanimate it, you can recur it. There's all kinds of synergies for this. Like, maybe the easiest synergy is Lisa Forgotten Archangel, a legendary creature. It's a 5-mana 4/5 flying lifelink that says, when another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. And if a creature opponent would control would die, you have to exile it. So essentially, if you have both of these out, you have Ratadrabik, you have Lisa. If a legend dies, you're going to get the non-legendary zombie token copy of it, and then you're going to get the real legend back into your hand, so you can do it again, throw in a sacrifice outlet or something, and you're just like going to town. And there's so many cool legends. Like, imagine this in Tisa Karlov, where you're getting double the tokens each time. Imagine in Tisa Karlov with an Anointed Procession on the battlefield to get even more tokens. You can get so many copies of the same legend on the battlefield. There's powerful, like, legendary dragons and Machiases, and it's just like, it's such a neat card. This is exactly the kind of cards I love to build around in Commander. I don't know if this is, like, super strong, but when it goes off, it's just going to do, like, really unique things that no other commander can do. This is, like, unique text on a Magic card that we've never really seen a card that can do what Ratadrabik does. So this is one that I might have to build this one on paper too. This is very high in my build around list from the set.
Yeah, I think this card is fantastic. And like you said, we usually see these effects exile the card, but in this case, there's so many overlapping synergies with Lisa. I will throw in a synergy that will just make the best MDFC in the game even better. I'm talking, of course, of Malakir Rebirth, which says if a creature would die this turn, then you return it to the battlefield. So again, with your sack outlet, you get your Kakusho or whatever on the battlefield, and you have your sack outlet also on the battlefield. You put Malakir Rebirth for 1 mana on it. You sacrifice a Kakusho, you drain everybody for 5. Kakusho immediately re-enters the battlefield, and you get the token copy of it, and you maybe sacrifice them again, dome them for 15. Malakir Rebirth for 1 mana. The best MDC. I'm just being vindicated every single set, basically. Every single set.
Best MDFC?
You can sack it. You could use. If you're splashing blue, if this is in the 99, then you can use the best blue board wipe, Fade Away, and sacrifice your legends to it intentionally.
Okay, there's actually like merit to the the other MDFC, Malakir Rebirth. I don't know if we're talking about.
Come on.
There is a reason to splash blue in this deck, though. I mean, you can't play it with it as your commander, but if you play blue in your deck, you can play Leyline of Singularity, which just says all non-legendary permanents, or all non-land permanents are legendary. So what this does is it makes the tokens legendary, and then there's super easy infinite loops, because you play something, it legend rolls, the token's going to be legendary, so that's going to legend roll, and you just keep going and going and going and go like infinite aristocrat shenanigans. I don't know the best commander for that. Going into blue definitely is a problem. You can't do this with Ratadrabik as your commander. But if you can find a way to do that in some sort of like Esper aristocrat list, it would be really sweet. Also, there's potential of like finding a way to legend rule your own Ratadrabik to get multiples on the battlefield, because one will be non-legendary once you get the token copy, and then you can recast your commander or whatever. And then once you get multiples on the battlefield, it gets really, really absurd. So you can use like a lithoform engine or something to copy it on the stack. White and black, not the best cloning colors, but there are ways to get two of them on the battlefield, even playing this as your commander, and then then it's really out of control.
Oh man, making the tokens legendary is some next level spice. I never thought about that. That sounds super fun, actually.
Yeah.
Infinite sacks. Yeah, that's sick. All right, we'll move on, Krim, to the third card on your list. Again, very on brand. I love it. What is it?
It's Ertai Resurrected. 2 blue-black. Flash. When it enters the battlefield, choose up to 1. Counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability, its controller draws a card, and or the other mode, which is destroy another target creature or planeswalker, its controller draws a card. So, this just pretty straightforward, right? Like, this is going to be something that I just love, because now, at first I thought it was a little weird, but that was because I was thinking about it in 60-card formats. But, like, in Commander, this card is just awesome, right? I'm willing to play Arcane Denial already, so I don't mind you drawing a card. Usually whatever you're trying to do over there is big enough of a haymaker to where I'm willing to let you draw a mystery card, as long as it means that I either A, get to counter you and or remove the thing eventually. So the versatility of this card is just perfect and exactly what I want. On top of that, you know, like it doesn't do what Venser does, but it's definitely like, you know, it's along the lines of a Venser. It's in the, I guess, the ballpark. But like, yeah, it's just a backup Venser essentially. And this one can just also, like, you know, actually just remove something as opposed to bounce something. However, Venser does bounce a land, so that's way different. And lastly, the card reminds me of a thing from Jujutsu Kaisen. It looks like Sukuna, so like that's pretty cool.
That sounds like a cool cartoon. I'll check it out later.
Yeah, it's a great cartoon. Check it out sometime. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, this seems like the ultimate Crim Commander, honestly.
Honestly,
Flash.
Okay,
it has Flash.
Yeah. It goes in all my Flash decks, my Tempo decks, and then, you know, like, what if I decide to make it my commander just for fun, right? Like,
it's the mirror. It's draw go. You could even deny the draw as well by like running Notion Thief. Oh my god, Notion Thief in this.
Yeah,
disgusting.
Yeah, that's gonna be that Narset, you know, things like that. I mean, like, think
about
that.
That
like,
sounds super fun.
Yeah,
it's not even a may. So like, whereas Arcane Denial, like you may draw the card. So if I have Notion Thief, you can't. You just say no. This one you have to do it, and I love that. So this, I almost want to play this as a commander. Actually, this could be kind of fun. It's like very straightforward what I'm doing.
Do you like this more than? Or sorry, go ahead, Seth.
Oh no, you can go ahead. You're good.
I was gonna ask if you like this more than original Ertai.
Original Ertai doesn't have to be recasted, so no. This card is definitely not nearly. To be honest with you, I think this is probably not a good commander, but I will do it just to let people know that I could.
But I mean, you could put it in a 99. I think this fits in like half of your 99 decks, honestly, or half of the decks in your 99.
1000% in my 99 of like it is almost a sure thing. If it is blue and black, I will have this.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about it is you can target your own stuff too. So you can do it in a pinch to just like cycle and draw a card. But I think it gets even more exciting if you have a commander or cards that have negative triggers. Like we just got a new one in the set actually, Silkenar the Tainted, which is kind of like a demonic pack legend where you have 3 positive options, and then the last option is you got to blink it and give it to an opponent. Well, you can use your Ertai to just like counter the negative trigger and get all the benefit from it. Or if you're playing literal demonic pact, which has a 3 good modes and then lose the game mode, you wait and flash this in and then counter it. And that's something you can do in the Dimir colors, which is kind of unique. If you look at like people playing demonic pacting cards like that, black and blue are not great at answering enchantments permanently. So this is kind of a unique effect for stuff like that. Or like you reanimate a phage and use this to like stifle the trigger or something. So there's some cool shenanigans there as well. Yeah, you got half of it in your command zone, like turn 2 phage or turn whatever 3 phage with ramp with this stifling the trigger. Sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
big to just have access to it at all times, right? So if
Yeah.
you can like make Phase your hidden commander.
Yep.
Yeah, the flexibility here is neat, and I like how open ended a lot of these new legendaries are. Like they're not just like, oh, you can put it in this one version and that's it. Like we were even talking about Ramses, like, yeah, you could build Assassin Tribal, but that's not just the only way you can build it. And it's the same with Ertai. Like, there's so many ways you could take advantage of those two triggered abilities that, I don't know, it's very fun. Good job, Wizards. I really like the set. All right, we'll move on to my third card. And this is a pretty simple one. In terms of the cards on our list, this is pretty simple. This is Rivaz of the Claw, which is a new Rakdos legendary via Shino Warlock, which is just badass. I like those two creature types. I like the art. But as for the card itself, it's a 3 mana, 1 black, red, 3/3 legendary creature via Shino Warlock with Menace. It can tap to add 2 mana of any color combination and spend this mana only to cast dragon creature spells. And once during each of your turns, you may cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard. Whenever you cast a dragon creature from your graveyard this way, it gains, when this creature dies, exile it. So not only is it really a good mana acceleration, like this is a 3-drop that taps for 2, and it also color fixes, but also every single turn, you can use it as recursion to recur your dragon creatures. So where are you going to be running this? Obviously, Dragon Tribal is going to be the most obvious option, right? Like you got the Dragon is a very notable one. There is Bladewing, the Risen, and there's a new Bladewing actually that came out in Dominaria.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of synergy between those two, especially the new Bladewing is all about like having a stacked graveyard and then making knights equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. So stacked graveyards and Rivaz go like peanut butter and jelly, obviously. But obviously, we're talking me, and this is my hype list. Tribal. You know, you're casting changelings, which are also dragons. So this is a very fantastic tribal ramp for your changelings. Very, very fantastic tribal ramp for your dragon if he's your changeling tribal like me. And then, yeah, you can cast your changelings. Not only your dragons, but also your changelings from the graveyard every single turn. Mana advantage, card advantage. For 3 mana, it's beautiful. I love it. I love it so much.
I think, as far as playing it in the 99, I think Scion of the Dragon's actually my favorite, because Scion's like tutoring dragons into the graveyard, and then you can use this to cast them from the graveyard, and your Scion becomes a copy of it, which is a pretty neat synergy. There was also someone, I don't know if this would work in Commander, but someone sent me a standard deck list that was built around this and Lord of the Forsaken, which is a 6-mana demon that lets you channel, but only from spells from the graveyard, pay a life to add a generic mana. So you can just like make a ridiculous amount of mana to cast your dragons from the graveyard, which is kind of a neat idea. So I like it. I don't know about like, would you play this as your Rakdos Dragon Commander, or would you stick with like Bladewing or something and play this in the 99? Is this like the default Rakdos Dragon Commander at this point?
This is a powerful card, but I don't think it's a commander, is it? Like, I mean, I think it's really good. It's a 99 card, right?
I mean, you could play Rakdos. So, I mean, I don't think Rakdos Dragons is ever going to be as strong as 5-color dragons, because 5-color dragons is busted and you get all the dragons. But if you wanted to be just Rakdos Dragons, it doesn't seem like a bad Rakdos Dragon Commander to me.
I think it really depends on how much your Bladewing, for example. I think the only other Rakdos Dragon leader is usually a Bladewing, one of the Bladewings. Yeah. So if your Bladewing is like so impactful when you cast it that you're going to like be rocketed ahead in the game, I think Bladewing's better. But what I really like about Rivaz, if you want to go Rakdos Dragons, is that it's just super consistent, right? Like every turn 3, you're going to play your Rivaz and you're going to ramp out either like on turn 4, you're going to be having like 6 mana. We're going to cast a 6-drop dragon every single time. Even better if you like dropped a Signet or like a Sol Ring or something like that on turn 1 and 2. So you could have like a 7-drop on turn 4, which is really good. And then, yeah, it's just a very consistent engine. It's just 3 mana. So it can be recast once or twice pretty easily when it dies. Whereas like Bladewing, the bigger dragons, you're going to have to really rely on reanimation effects, which obviously you're in black, so you're going to be doing that stuff. But the fact that if you just want a consistent commander, it's very good. But yeah, maybe more in the 99. I think more. It's not as like flashy, so maybe more in the 99.
It's a sweet card though. I love it.
Yeah, and all the
I like
art.
it a lot
if
too.
you're listening to the podcast, look up the art at some point. I'm biased. I think it's really cool. But yes, we'll move on to the final round of cards. Seth, kick it off. What gets you super hyped about the new set?
Okay, so I'm going to cheat like a tiny bit here. So I just got to shout out this card. This isn't my actual pick, but I needed to mention this card because there's been so much controversy about 3-mana rock. And that card is Relic of Legends. Relic of Legends is just a 3-mana rock that taps at a generic mana, or and I guess technically, you can tap an untap legend to add 1 mana of any color, a legendary creature. So essentially, it's a 3-mana rock that works like a Darksteel Ingot or whatever, but then it also turns your legendary creatures into like a Cryptolith Rites, more or less, where you can tap them like a Birds of Paradise. I just want to say this is the kind of mana rock that you can actually play. Don't fall into the trap that you can't play 3-mana rocks anymore. In general, your 3-mana rocks are not as great as they used to be, and they need to have a meaningful upside. But you know what a meaningful upside is? Being able to tap all of your random creatures to add a whole bunch of mana and cast all your spells and fix all your mana. Like, this has enough upside that if you're playing a deck that has a lot of legends in it, then I think this is a 3-mana rock that you should be playing. So like in the Jodah deck, in the Sisay deck, in a Azeka Legends, Kethith Legends, Ratadrabik Legends, like any of those decks that are just built around legendary creatures, this is not just a mana rock that you should play. It's going to be the best mana rock in your deck. So I just wanted to say that because I know people are... I see so many arguments on Twitter about like, oh, I can't play 3-mana rocks anymore. And that's not like 100% true. You shouldn't just play your Darksteel Ingots anymore if you're trying to build an optimal deck. But that's not true for every mana rock. But my actual pick is a more interesting card. At least I think it's more interesting, which is Hazezon, Shaper of Sand, the Return of Hazezon. It's a 3-mana Naya 3/3 legendary human warrior. It has Desert Walk, so if an opponent has a desert, they're not going to be able to block it. It lets you play desert lands from your graveyard, and when a desert enters a battlefield under your control, you make 2 1/1 red and green and white sand warrior creature tokens. So this card, I don't think it's super strong, but we've never had a commander that cared about deserts before, and I love the flavor of this card. I love the nostalgia of this card, calling back to the original Hazezon, and I think it's actually like kind of a neat build around. If you think about deserts as lands, their whole gimmick is they sacrifice for value, like Ramanop Ruins can sacrifice for damage, Hashep Oasis, sacrifice to pump, Scavenger Ground, sacrifices to exile graveyards, or they cycle, so they end up in the graveyard. So this naturally works with the deserts that we currently have in Magic, because deserts ended up in the graveyard anyway. This lets you replay them, so it's kind of like a weird source of ramp almost if you're getting a land drop out of your graveyard, and then you're also getting a couple tokens along the way. And if somehow you can have an opponent that has deserts, which I have no idea how often that's going to happen, probably not very much, then you can go Voltron and they can't block it. So the punishment for people playing those OP deserts has finally arrived. But I like this card. I've always liked Hazezon as a character, and I think this is a really cool version of it.
I can't believe you would meta someone on deserts.
Got him.
After I kept saying how good Scavenging Grounds is, you're like, I'll show them. I'll show them all.
Yeah.
I better crack it first. Hazezon's coming for you. I think this is a cool commander. I see it as like a sort of, like you said, like a lands graveyard deck. Focusing on deserts, which is neat. It's like we don't see that before. And there's not a lot of desert support right now, but I imagine we're going to eventually go to another place that has deserts. I think Amonkhet is definitely on the cards to revisit, and they had a desert theme. So I imagine this will get better over time as well in terms of like if you want to focus heavily on desert decks. But right now, I think it's just really good in terms of like you want to play a lands matter deck in Naya colors. How many commanders out there are not? Well, there's like 1 or 2. But my main thing is that you could play deserts from the graveyard, and I'm just going to be that person. If Richard was here, he'd say it. Land destruction, Armageddon, is really good.
Yeah.
Because you have Hazezon. All right, you have Hazezon. Cast Armageddon, and now you can play the lands from your graveyard while your opponents do nothing and cry. So, I mean, yeah.
I think you're looking at it all wrong. I think what you really do is you play a desert, you harmless offering the desert to your opponent, and then you put some equipment on them and get in there.
And then you infect them to death with grafted exoskeleton.
We've had a lot of infected on this podcast.
Yeah.
But no, it is cool. You can sack lands and get them back. You can Armageddon away the lands and get them back. There's like Sylvan Safekeeper that lets you sack a land to give a creature you control Shroud, so it protects Hazezon, and then it's a way to get a land in the graveyard, a desert in the graveyard, so you recast it and get the tokens. You got landfall synergies that can go along with it if you want to go that direction. So I think it's a neat commander. I like it. It's a classic character, and I also like that landfall decks tend to be busted. Like, it's just an inherently powerful archetype in Commander, because all of a sudden with your Tetsuo or whatever, all of your cultivates are card draw effects, or all of your cultivates are making scoot swarms or whatever. Being restricted to only deserts really powers down Hazezon in a way that I think you can play a landfall deck and not look as threatening as if you reveal a Tetsuo or like a Sai or something like that.
As long as you don't reveal Armageddon. Like, imagine if you went to a table, you dropped down Hazezon, and you said, I'm not running any land destruction. Who would target you down?
Yeah, you're worried about my sand tokens?
I'm going to animate my desert and hit you for 3. Like, I don't know.
You never know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's sweet. I like seeing, like, this is taking the classic landfall deck and adding a very important twist to it to make it actually interesting, and not the same thing we've seen 1,000 times. So, yeah. Very cool. All right, moving on. Krim, what do you got for us?
So so this was kind of a tough one. I since Seth cheated a little bit, I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. Okay, I'm adding 2 cards specifically. I want to shout out Academy Loremaster first off. That was on my list just because that seems like a fun card in Commander. Just if somebody wants to draw, they can. They just have to pay 2 mana, but then all their spells will cost 2 more. Because at the beginning, like Loremaster specifically reads at the beginning of at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player may draw an additional card. If they do, they pay 2 more to cast all their spells.
Yes, it's a draw go card. I get it, Krim. If you only cast stuff during your opponent's turn, we get it.
No, you don't need to do. Like, what am I doing? I'm just gonna like they draw an additional card. Why wouldn't you want that?
We see your hair color, Krim.
I feel like though this is actually just great in draw go though. Like seriously, because like. How the other people can't afford a 2 mana tax on your spells. Like, no, you can't. Like, if you're trying to play during your turn, that's a huge tax. But if you're not planning on playing stuff during your turn anyway, because you're the draw go deck, you just get an extra card every turn for free.
Yeah,
like
it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. But it's a party card as well. Like, hey, maybe
there's no party. That's like when you go
to a party.
This is when you go to a party and they don't let you in the door. You get bounced before you even make it in. Like that's this card, because there's no way you can afford to draw the card with this very consistently.
I don't know. I think you can.
If you're green, who cares?
Yeah, if you're green,
like
from a landfall deck, it's
every spell, right? Like every spell you cast that turn has a 2 mana tax. Have you ever tried to play through like a Elspeth Conqueror's Death going off? It's not easy. 2 mana is a lot to add to every spell you cast.
Then don't draw the card. You know, like you know what I mean. Don't draw the card. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But that's not the pick. I wanted to name Vidalian Hexcatcher, which is a flash 2 mana Merfolk. Other Merfolk get +1/+1. Sack a Merfolk. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller pays 1. So it just turns all your Merfolk into like what is a Curse Catcher. It has flash. It's a Lord effect. I love my Merfolk, so I have a Spheal deck. And then like if it's not that card, it's Emperor Mihail, which is let me see if I can pull up the exact wording on that one, because that one has a line of text. But Emperor Mihail is a 3 mana Merfolk. It's 1 blue. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You know, I love these cards. I just look at it for fun in response, just to do everything. And then you may cast Merfolk spells from the top of your library. And whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token. So this is sweet. It just allows me to just keep partying through a bunch of merfolks, and then every time I pay an additional one, it generates me another merfolk, which is great when you have, example, the Curse Catcher or whatever the Lord is, where you tap 7 merfolk, you can counter something. Like there's, as long as you're just continuously going wide with merfolk, you'll be able to just like activate so many abilities, and this card allows you to just keep doing that. So I really like this card in like merfolk. So very, very straightforward what home this is going in, or of course, tribal. If you want to, you can play this in your tribal deck. I don't know what you're gonna do with the random merfolk on the side, but hey, whatever. Like this, you could play it there. I think this card is cool, and merfolk got a huge power boost just from these 2 cards. So I love them both.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a merfolk player, these cards are great. These are like some of the best merfolk we've gotten in a while for commander decks. So yeah, I don't think I've ever played merfolk in commander, but if I did, I'd play both of these.
I mean, you know what's going to happen if you play merfolk. Your lands are going to become islands. That's what my entire merfolk deck tries to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you are in merfolk, these are great, and I think they are playable in tribal as well. Like they're worth having fun with. So yeah.
Are you getting to the point where you have too many of these payoffs for tribal? It feels like we keep getting more of them. Are you having to make like hard decisions about like which off-tribe lords you got to cut?
We're way beyond that. Like I haven't even put in Mirrorwim in my deck yet because like it's so hard to find cuts even for Mirrorwim. It's such a good card, and I'm like, yeah. But anywho, I guess if everybody's cheating, I'm going to cheat too. Guess what? I'm allowed to do that as well. I invent the rules. So honorable mention goes to Silverback Elder for all the green players out there. This is a 5 mana, 2 and triple green creature ape shaman, 5/7. And whenever you cast a creature spell, choose one of 3 modes. Destroy target artifact or enchant vince. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card, not a basic land, but any land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, or you gain 4 life. So if you're in green and you're a creature deck, which is basically every green deck that isn't Landslot deck, you're just going to be just machine gunning down all artifacts and enchantments you control. So it's like aura shards essentially on a creature, which is even better than aura shards because it's a creature. And then you can also just ramp like crazy, and you're not limited to basic lands. So you're very much like, if you're running like 35 plus lands, you're going to be very consistently ramping with this effect every single time. And if you're in a tight spot and you need to gain some life, you're getting 4 life a turn as well. This card is just bananas. Pardon the ape. But
very good.
Good one.
Got him. But yeah, this card is very good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a creature deck, it's great.
Yeah. So I expect that to see a lot of play. But the card that interests me is, yet again, another legendary creature, and this is Verrak, Warped Sengir. This is an Orzhov legendary creature vampire, 1 white and a black, so 3-drop, 2/2, flying, death touch, lifelink. And whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, if life was paid to activate it, you may pay that much life again. If you do copy that ability, you may choose new targets for that copy. So essentially what this card reads is it's a Rings of Brighthearth for every single activated ability that costs life. And yeah, that's basically it. Instead of paying 2 mana, like Rings of Brighthearth, to copy that ability, you're just doubling the amount of life total that you're paying for that activated ability. Very obvious synergy here. The one that's going to be the one that you're going to jam all your fetch lands into because of it's it's fetch lands. All fetch lands, or the original fetch lands are the Onslaught Zendikar fetch lands are pay 1 life to activate it, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land, put it onto the battlefield. So for the low cost of paying an additional life total, so it's 2 life total, you're going to turn all your fetch lands into ramp, which is fantastic in an Orzhov deck, which naturally don't get to do that. You're basically essentially a green deck at that point. So run all the fetch lands in those 2 colors, or in any colors that you're running Verrak in. But it gets even more fun when you consider there's so many activated abilities out there that cost life in black, which this is an Orzhov card. So like What's it called? The one that like does -1/-1 damage to a creature. It's one of the demon lords. Forgot his name.
Silumgar? No.
Oh wait,
Villas.
no.
Yes, Villas. But yes, Villas works. The Razakath, sacrifice a creature, pay 2 life. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand. So now you got to search your library for 2 cards and put it into your hand for 4 life instead of 2. Like, this is good. It's a good card. Turns your fetch lands into ramp. It turns your pay life things into better stuff. It's really greed. You could greed.
I was gonna say, Beth, that's what I want to do. This is like the best greed commander. I get to draw so many cards and die so quickly to my greeds. But really though, like it does work well with greed, Phyrexian Reclamation. You get back 2 creatures instead of 1, or like Priest of the Fell Rites. You double reanimate, pay 3 life, sacrifice it, reanimate a creature. You're getting back 2. Or Chainer also kind of does that. The OG Chainer, pay 3 black and 3 life to reanimate something. So there's actually like
the Nightmare Lord or whatever, right?
Dementia Master. Dementia Master.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool synergies for this card. So I like it. The only thing I wanted to say is like it has to say pay life. So if an effect just says like, and then you lose some amount of life or something, that's not actually going to count as paying life, even though as far as gameplay is concerned, they kind of have the same end result in a game of Magic, but it has to specifically say the words like pay X amount of life for this to trigger. So as you're building your decks, just keep that in mind. Cause I know it was like, whatever, your Vampire Tutor or whatever, not that would work anyway, cause it's not an ability, but in effect like that, Vampire Tutor says you lose 2 life. So it wouldn't actually apply to this as a commander.
Yeah. Also, I like the fact that it's a 3-drop. So again, we talk about like consistency. The lower the mana value is, the more consistent you're going to have it on the battlefield. So it's a 3-drop. It's not it's not the ultimate cheapness, but it's like on the cheaper end. So you cast it on 3, start cracking your fetch lands on 4, and if it dies, you can recast it once or twice. So that's good.
Yeah, and we were just talking about like our favorite underrated commanders, and Selenia Dark Angel was near the top of my list for like the life swapping shenanigans. And I feel like this, like, it's not going to be as good at just like get your life total down to 2 or something the way Selenia can. But if you want to actually do more than just put your life total down to 2 and like draw some cards and do some cool things along the way, I think it's kind of a neat life swap style commander as well, where you can like spend a bunch of life on abilities and then give your life total to your opponent or like whatever. Like, so I think there's some neat shenanigans in that space with Verrak too.
I do like me some life swap.
Yeah. It's going to work very well with some previous Orzhov commanders for sure, and I think it's going to be a fantastic commander in itself too. So I expect it to see a decent amount of play. Well, that was 4 commanders from each of us. So a total of 12 plus honorable.
Yeah,
plus
a little
honorable
cheating.
mentions. A little bit cheating.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our podcast. We make up the rules.
We can do what we want.
You can't complain. You can leave a downvote if you really want to, but it doesn't matter to us.
Don't
We're
do that.
unstoppable. Yeah, don't do that, please. Like and subscribe, actually.
They're just lucky I didn't go on a half-hour Plaza of Heroes sucks rant, so you dodged that at least.
We didn't even talk about how much you don't like.
Did we though? Because I feel like we're pining to open that box
good.
right now.
We're good.
Okay, all right.
Is there something you want to talk about, Seth?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, all right, cool then. No worries.
All right. Okay, well, that's pretty much our list. What do you all think about the set in general? Dominaria United, the main set, and the collector box topper cards and the pre-con cards. What's your vibe on this for Commander?
I mean,
overall,
every set. Oh, go ahead, Grim.
Oh, I was gonna say just overall, I don't know. It feels just balanced. Just like it's like it's not bad. It's not like amazingly. It's not like absurdly powerful. There's nothing that has me jumping out of my seat except for like the Assassin Lord. But like everything just seems balanced, and it feels weird to say that.
Crim's so down on this set. Every time we talk about this set, I'm
not
like,
down.
Crim is just so down. I love this set. I think it's powerful. I think it's powerful. I don't know. I mean, I've had to change the way I evaluate sets. I remember like 5 years ago when we did these videos, we'd be like, oh, is this a good commander set? And that was like a legit question. And now like every set is a good commander set. But I feel like Dominaria United like went out of its way to be an even better than good commander set just because its themes happen to line up with what commander is about. Like the whole like legendary theme, a bunch of support for legends in specific. I feel like this is above average even in the current era of everything being designed for Commander. I feel like they kind of went out of their way to make sure this was even better than the norm these days, which is the norm is pretty good for Commander. Every set is like got so many Commander cards, and this even goes far above that.
It's just balanced. That's what it is. It's just balance. That's all it is. There's nothing like that's like gonna make me like upset. Nothing like snowballs absurdly.
Yeah. I mean, like, Jodah's, like, very good, I think. Like, as a new commander, you're going to see a lot of Jodahs, I think, on tables. Maybe not at Golos levels, obviously, because it's much easier to shut down, but I think it's going to be very popular, and it's going to have a high impact. But, yeah, I think it's... I agree with Krim that it's balanced, and I also agree with Seth that I feel like a lot of... I feel like they went out of their way to really think about what they can add to Commander without trying to like obsolete previous options. It really feels like a toned down power level wise set, but also a much more mindful set. Like Tetsuo Imperial Champion, first time we've ever seen a Grixis equipment commander, right? Like Ivy is working with Mutate. Ramses is a cool new take on assassins that can be built different ways. I think there was a lot of thought and a lot of diversity in the set that you don't really see in other sets, but at the same time, like it's like on the opposite end of the spectrum from like Commander Legends 1, where they're just like, here's Jewel Lotus, here's Hullbreacher, here's, you know, like Jessica's Will, you know, like and partners, broken partners. It's very different than that, and I feel like it's kind of like a philosophy change. Like Baldur's Gate was also a lot powered down, I think, too. And I think this is following that mind. But I think this is a lot more interesting than Baldur's Gate, to be honest. Like, a lot of there's so many weird commanders here. Like, freaking Hazezon dealing with deserts and stuff. Like, it's in the same deck it's in the same set as Ramses. It's dealing with assassins and Tetsuo again, dealing with equipment and stuff. So, yeah, I really like this set. I think it's really good. I hope that it's popular, because if not, we're going to go back to Commander Legends style, where everything has to be a must-see staple, and I don't know if that's good for long-term health of a format, but
it's not. It's not. I can tell you, it is not good for the long-term health of the format, but
it's more exciting, I know, initially. I don't know. Yeah. I like the set. It's balanced.
And there's a bunch more cool cards we didn't get to. I don't think anything broken, but like the set, there's a lot of depth. That's how I kind of view it. Like you might not have a Jeweled Lotus or whatever, a Dockside Extortionist, which I think is probably a positive that we're not getting those cards anymore at this point. But I think there's like a pretty long list of like 50 cards or more that you could play in your commander deck, and they're going to do what you want it to do. They're going to be functional at a, you know, mid to high power table and do some like pretty fun things and interesting things. So maybe it doesn't have the top end power, but I think it makes up for that by just having like a really long list of interesting and like powerful enough to see play kind of cards.
All right. Well, on that note, we did 12 cards. We talked about the set in quite good length. Almost an hour and a half. And on that note, everyone, hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the podcast. Like and subscribe if you like this sort of content. mggoldfishmerch.com. You know all the things. All right, that's our show, everybody. Until next week. See ya!